Los grandes descubrimientos, medicina botánica, astromedicina, astrología, astronomía, nutrición natural, terapias alternativas, enigmas del pasado, regresión de vidas pasadas, ufología, entrevistas de relevancia internacional y muchos temas más.
Si de las semillas que arrojamos a la tierra con nuestro programa germina solo una, entonces ese nuevo ser será parte de una nueva humanidad y la tarea estará más que cumplida.
Ciencia marina, medicina herbaria y terapias alternativas. Por esta radio, FM Álvarez Comunitaria 100.9. 100.9. El siguiente programa está impulsado por Juan Carlos Canizo, delegado general de Argentina, designado por la Red Mundial Internacional OMDIMAR. Ciencia marina, medicina herbaria y terapias alternativas, con la conducción de Susana Macdef y la participación del investigador botánico Juan Carlos Canizo. Esta es una producción de EON City. Aquí comienza Ciencia Marina, Medicina Herbaria y Terapias Alternativas.
Todos los viernes desde las 18 horas en adelante, quien les habla, Juan Carlos Canizo, del programa Ciencia Marina, Medicina Herbaria y Terapias Alternativas, realizo la producción para el canal 3 de televisión por aire, diferenciándose de los que se transmiten por radio los sábados de 8 a 9 de la mañana, conducido por Susana Macdef. Pueden hacer contacto con nosotros a través de ciencia y medicina marina @live.com o mensajerosdelalba@yahoo.com.ar. Comenzamos con nuestro programa.
Ahora en Ciencia Marina, Medicina Herbaria y Terapias Alternativas te presentamos el segmento de Ufología.
I think most Americans feel that way, but what is still true is that there's still kind of a reptilian side of our brain, right? That part of our brain that if somebody looks different or sounds different, that there's a part of us that is cautious, and what we have to do is fight against it.
Bueno, definitivamente hay que explicar primero lo que son los reptilianos. Los reptilianos son una supuesta raza de extraterrestres que se encuentra ya aquí en la Tierra y que están dominando al mundo, se están metiendo en la política, se están metiendo en los medios de comunicación, tal como el video que vemos de una persona. Pues ahora sí que dando su información, pero de pronto parece cambiar su rostro completamente por algo que pareciera ser como un reptil. Y es que se dice que estos van a ser desenmascarados. Constantino, ¿qué es lo que estamos viendo?
Sí, es algo que posiblemente en estas fechas, ya acercándonos a conocer pues este tipo de personajes que han tomado una parte importante en la opinión pública en todo el mundo.
Vemos una transformación definitiva en la pupila, precisamente como las tendría un reptil. Esta reportera, mientras está haciendo una entrevista, vean el cambio, es realmente asombroso. Pongan mucha atención. Y tenemos más videos, más cambios, más transformaciones que han sido grabadas.
Así es, ahí podemos observar también el ojo de esta persona. Y bueno, es que todos son como detalles de reptiles, como si fueran cocodrilos, como si fueran serpientes. Pero bueno, no nada más ellos, sino que hay muchas personalidades del medio del espectáculo. Ahí tenemos a Tony Blair también.
Políticos.
Bueno, personajes que definitivamente parecieran ser reptilianos. Pongan mucha atención a los ojos.
Aquí lo que se me hace interesante es pues ese parangón que se tenía entre los antiguos egipcios con el dios Sobek.
Tenemos en pantalla a esta actriz española, Belén Rueda, que también tiene esa se dice que pertenece a esta especie. Vemos el cambio en los ojos, en la pupila.
Dícese que los reptilianos están desde el principio de los tiempos aquí en la Tierra.
bueno, también se dice, bueno, de gente con poderío económico, de artistas que tienen una gran capacidad, pues, sobre la opinión pública y de seguidores, que eso es muy importante hacer esa mención. Pero déjame decirte algo que para mí es completamente importante mencionar.
Ahí tenemos al representante que dicen más poderoso de los reptilianos, George Bush.
Hoy presentamos Reptilianos torturan a humanos, las evidencias, segunda parte. Gracias al Servicio de Inteligencia norteamericano, Arizona Wilder fue rescatada de los vejámenes a los que ha sido sometida por otros reptilianos de líneas de sangre pura del planeta Nibiru, que dominan nuestra Tierra. Hoy, Arizona Wilder se encuentra en un lugar de seguridad custodiada por el Servicio de Inteligencia de su país. El investigador, escritor y conferencista David I. fue convocado para esta entrevista por su excelente reputación y transparencia.
In the Illuminati was as a goddess, specifically the address is Mother Goddess, Starfire. And the Starfire goes back to the blood in the menstrual blood, what is contained in that. And the address, the way that I was addressed was Mother Goddess. There are only 3 Mother Goddesses. There can only be 3 at a time on this planet, and there is a male equivalent of which there can be only 3 of them.
Why mind control someone to conduct these rituals, like yourself? Why don't these reptilians just conduct their own rituals?
They don't seem to have the psychic abilities, and they look for people that have that and people in the bloodline that have that. And I've had that. I've had a tremendous amount of psychic ability, and so I was picked and bred from before birth, and this is also something that other survivors that have been in high positions have known about me and told me.
What's the connection then between you having psychic abilities, those being recognized from the start, and you being brought through to conduct their major rituals?
Well, it's kind of twofold. First of all, they needed the psychic abilities because they control or attempt to control events, because I would have the ability to foretell what was going to happen, and they needed the information to just try to control it to an outcome that was good for them. The second thing is that during the rituals, you had to have psychic ability. You have to be very powerful in that way to call out the old ones that are also reptilian, that come from another dimension. They actually they materialize from out of another dimension and are present at rituals, and they are so powerful, and their presence is there's such an evilness about them, and they want out of this other dimension, and they can't. They have to be called out by someone who has that power, and the reptilians don't have this power. That's very important, that they don't have this power to call out these old ones that have to do with them. And
what is it that humans have that the reptilians don't have, that means they don't have the power to connect interdimensionally, and some humans do?
We have the ability to foresee, to be able to become vibrationally higher, and see into those levels, go into those levels, and in fact, agencies use this, they call it remote viewing, to go, humans have the ability to go into the past, to go into the future, to go to other places, to astrally leave their body, astrally, and to see things that we've always had this ability, and it's like having the third eye, which they don't have. They don't have this ability. So during a ritual, these old ones are called out, and they are what Christianity would have called the demons. They are called out, and there is a circle that it has a hexagon in there, which is a powerful occultic symbol, and then there is a pentagram, and then there in the middle of that there is a triangle, and if you're the one calling them out, then you stand in the triangle so that you're not devoured or taken by these creatures that come out.
It creates an energy field around you which they can't penetrate.
They can't penetrate it, and they cannot get outside the pentagram. And they want out. They're always demanding to be let out. And so you have to be very powerful to keep them in line and to make them go back when it is time for them to go back.
Why do the reptilians want to manifest these quote demons at the rituals?
It brings power to the rituals. It brings power to them. They are told things by these entities, and they are encouraged to go on with what they're doing, and knowledge is imparted to them through these entities. But it takes a person with the ability to bring them out and make them answer, because they don't want to cooperate. They have to cooperate when the right person has control over them.
And that's to do with that person's energy and ability to use it.
Right, yes.
You talked about the Aryan race coming from Mars. One expression of it seems to be very clearly what we call the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians had two deities, St. George, which became a British deity, who defeated the dragon, which seems incredibly symbolic, and also St. Michael, who, according to the legend, banished Satan, or this negative force, into the abyss. Is this symbolism of the abyss anything to do with the fact that these reptilian demons of another dimension are somehow locked in the time-space prison, and they can't get out, and they can only get out when they're brought out in that way?
Yes, they want out of that dimension. They have been thrown into that dimension, and they can't leave that dimension. And that's actually what the abyss is about, is being in a different dimension. It's like something to do with the fourth dimension. And before I even knew, for example, what I was saying, or I realized what I was saying, I would be saying things to my therapist and other survivors that the fourth dimension was a dimension to stay away from. Not at that time understanding the whole thing.
Why do these rituals take place at certain key times of the year, and so often are related to the phases of the moon?
Because the moon has an influence on this planet, and also the sun. These also take place during different things that go on with the sun, but the moon it's kind of a really very cyclical thing with the moon. It takes place on full moons, new moons. It has to do with the current religion, or that they're using, the Druid religion that they've taken and used. They still hold on to the psychology type of religion. They hold on to the Druidism, though, and they're currently calling themselves Druidic or Druid. And Druidism is tied in with the cycles of the moon, on which it has to do with planting, sowing, and harvesting, and there are so many days that they can use from this to their own purpose and their own end that they bring it about. There's a lot of ritualization with Druidism, and they love ritualization.
So take us through one of these rituals that you conducted at the highest level of this global brotherhood. What would happen?
There were people that were bred from birth. They were bred to be ritual sacrifices. I have a problem with what they is said a lot today, especially by the False Memory Syndrome Foundation, that how could all of these people disappear? Or how could all these babies be born? I worked with a nurse midwife. We did home births, and it's very easy not to register a child when it's born. And then they have these children that they're kidnapping and bringing in from other countries, and no one misses them because these are third world countries. And children are they have the most energy, the purest energy, they're the highest form of sacrifice. And they will terrorize these children and mind control these children. And in rituals, by the time they're brought into rituals, they may be drugged, or they may not be drugged, or they may be in an altered state because of the mind control. And they are used as actual blood sacrifices during these rituals because of, again, reptilians needing their blood. And they will take various organs from the sacrifices depending on what date the ritual may, what the ritual may be associated with on that date. But they will also slit the throat from the left ear to the right ear, and the blood will be gathered in a goblet, and it will be dispersed among the reptilians, and dispersed among, also after that, among people that have been participating in these rituals and seem to have it, even though they seem to be dissociated, mostly these people seem to be cognizant of what they are doing.
Are these rituals rare? I mean, how many are there that, say, go on a year? I mean, we talking hundreds or thousands?
There are things happening every month of the year. There is not a month in this 12-month system that something is not happening. And it's more than one. I mean, it's every full moon. It's, and then the very important rituals are the summer solstice and the winter solstice, and then there is the vernal equinox and the fall equinox. And there is Samhain, and there is Beltane, there is Imbolc in February, there is Lughnasadh, which is in the beginning of August. There's a whole week leading up to Beltane, and also leading up to Samhain, that's called Grand Climax.
So May the 1st is Beltane.
May the 1st is Beltane.
Halloween, particularly in America, has become like a mini Christmas, almost like a holiday of celebration with a trick and treat and all this other stuff. But what actually happens outside the public arena that night of Halloween and into November the 1st?
away from the public arena, there's a ritual that's taking place in 6 different locations in this country for all of the councils of 13 in the area that I'm in. It is the East Side Christian Church on 7th and Temple Street in Long Beach. And it is for the High Council of 13. And in this country on that night, it is a satanic ritual. It's actually, there are 3 nights in a row at that church. The first night is Halloween.
What happens on the night of Halloween?
That night is about the worship and homage to Satan. And that is what a lot of people in this country know the devil to be. This is about the devil, Satan. And Christianity talks constantly. I mean, I believe they created Christianity to be what it is. And so they also have created this Satan. And so they control in that way. And on that night there's a lot of bloodshed, and there are sacrifices made to Satan. There is a person who plays the part of this in this High Council that has to do with this High Council. He's not on the High Council, but he has to do with playing the part of Satan. He is a televangelist on TBN. He used to be, he filled in for a little while as a lead singer on Iron Butterfly many years ago, and he has long blonde hair.
What's his name?
At this point, I don't recall his name, and it just, I recognize his face. I saw it recently on TBN, and then this is his cover, or he is DID, and he plays this part, the great deceiver Satan, on that night, on Halloween, at this church. And that is what happens on Halloween. And I mean, what else I am to say what is going on with Halloween in this country? It's just becoming so popular. It is also to desensitize people to the whole thing, and even this backlash Christian movement that wants to call it the Harvest Festival. It does not realize that the Harvest Festival has to do with Druidic religion. And again, they are still doing the same thing and celebrating the Harvest Festival. That's what the Harvest Festival is about.
Are many of the so-called Christian rituals, because that's what they are, or festivals or ceremonies, are they actually, to most Christians, unknowing representations of these satanic rituals?
Yes, they are. One, for example, Christmas has to do with it's a time, it comes right after the winter solstice, which is a satanic or a Druidic celebration. It has to do, there's a day in there called that day, which is not a day. It has to do with the killing of the old king and the birth of the new king, which is a Druidic day. On the 24th or the 25th at midnight, there is a ceremony that's specifically for children, and it's called the last bulb on the tree.
Where does that come from?
That is something that's used with children. It's part of programming them into the whole thing. And there were things that would happen to the child that hung the last bulb on the tree on Christmas Eve, as it was a common practice to decorate the tree on Christmas Eve, and the tree in itself is a phallic symbol. and it's paganistic. Christmas is based on pagan day, and back to Roman times, and Christians have given it, they think they have given it Christian meaning, and it means something else, and it does not. But there is the case with the last bulb on the tree that has something to do with what happened to this little girl, John Benet.
John Benet Ramsey?
Yes, John Benet Ramsey. And it means something else, and it does not. But there is the case with the last bulb on the tree that has something to do with what happened to this little girl, John Benet.
John Benet Ramsey?
Yes, John Benet Ramsey. And this occurred on this night because of the day it has to do with, and the ceremony that it has to do with. And there were rituals done on that night to these little children. So that is totally tied into it.
I have heard that Jean Benet's name is relevant to the rituals. Do you know anything about that?
John Bay is a satanic deity or Satan. John Bay is a name for Satan. And that name is just closely tied in. It's so close, and I don't understand why it hasn't come out. And that I know of, it hasn't been talked about. But that is why she was killed on the day that she was killed, and her family, as far as I'm concerned, her family is involved in this, and that there's always a price to be involved in it. She was the price. This little girl lost her life.
Can we talk about some of the famous names that people around the world would know who, in your experience, have taken part in these rituals that you've conducted? You say you've conducted them in Europe and the United States. Can we start with the United States?
Yes, I have seen at rituals, I have seen George Bush, I have seen Madeleine Albright, I have seen Henry Kissinger, I have seen Ronald Reagan, and I have also, by the way, seen his wife, Nancy Reagan. I have seen Hillary Clinton before I knew she was Hillary Clinton at the time at these rituals. She is involved. The other people that I have named I have seen shapeshift into reptilians. I have not seen Hillary Clinton actually shapeshift, but she is involved. I have seen the two sons when they were young, the two sons of George Bush present at these rituals.
Are these the sons that have become governors?
Yes, one is in Florida and one is in Texas. I have seen, did I mention J. Rockefeller? And he shapeshifts. I've seen George Deukmejian and Ronald Reagan again, having been governor in California. There have been people such as Newt Gingrich I saw, and I didn't know at the time that he was Newt Gingrich. I recognized that he was Newt Gingrich when Clinton came into power, and after he was, Newt Gingrich was then elected Speaker of the House. And I was horrified to realize that this man was also there. all of this has affected me to the point I don't vote. All of these people seem to all be connected to the Illuminati, and I don't feel like being part of having anything to do with them.
Presidents like Carter and Ford and Clinton.
I've seen Ford there.
Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford, yes.
Are they all reptilian bloodlines?
I haven't seen Carter shapeshift.
You've seen him at rituals, haven't you?
Yes. Gerald Ford, I have seen shapeshift. And Johnson also.
Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson. Also, Dr. Joseph Mengele, who took me around to these rituals a lot of the time, was also a shapeshifter. And there were also people that there are people in the European countries that I've seen shapeshift and be involved. And this it doesn't surprise me any more than it does the people in this country doing it. Is just for some reason more shocking, and it cuts even deeper, because I have seen the Queen Mother there, and I have seen the Queen there. I've seen Princess Margaret there. I've seen Charles there, and they shapeshift. And I have seen this. I'm not coming up with his name right now, but he was president in France after de Gaulle. He was there. I've seen him there. I've seen the Rothschilds there. I used to see the Rothschild that lived in England there, but the one that still goes there and is a shapeshifter, Guy de Rothschild, Baron Guy de Rothschild, has been to all of these rituals and has been over in this country under the name of Dr. Barrington and tried to program me, and has impregnated me several times with eggs that were taken from me years ago and were impregnated with semen from Pindar and then placed back into my uterus. This has happened to me twice, once at age 39 and this year right before I turned 43. And I had told my therapists ahead of time, before I ever could have known that this had been done to me. And it's happened at a certain place in where I have been living in the San Fernando Valley. It's happened at a house on Tyrone Street in Sherman Oaks. And my understanding is that there have been other survivors that have talked about this location as having been involved with programming and so on. And he has, Baron Guy de Rothschild has tried to program me. All these years he has been trying to control me, get me back under control. And the Marquis de Libero is someone else that attends all of these functions and is, since he is the one in power, he attends all these functions. I have seen Tony Blair there. and he shapeshifts. I have seen Prince Philip there. They all have their quirks as to how they act, even in their reptilian form. And they all, I mean, they act, they don't act all like robots, but they have their quirks, they have their so-called personalities, but they are all cold-blooded personalities, but they are all cold-blooded. They would kill at the drop of a hat. I have even, since I've seen a picture of some people on that are talking about this subject, I've seen them, when I've seen their pictures, I recognize them. I did a double take a few weeks ago when I saw again someone who has been talking about around this subject, and it seems to be popular right now.
Who's that?
This man by the last name of Sitchin. I've seen at rituals, and he is a shapeshifter. And I did a double take when I saw the picture of him, because I recognize him. And there's another person that I've seen, this Gardner, Sir Gardner.
That Lawrence Gardner?
Sir Lawrence Gardner. And he had recently written an article that was out in Nexus magazine. Part of it was about the menstrual blood, and what really triggered me was when he called it Starfire, because that is the name of one of the aspects of the three women who are the dressed mother goddess. That is my name in all of this. So this man I have seen, he has lots of power within this sect of reptilians, and he's someone that you would want to watch out for outside of this too, as is this Sitchin person.
What do you remember about Zachariah Sitchin?
Zachariah Sitchin was someone in the rituals attending the rituals who was not a major player in as far as the rituals went, but was someone that others present did not make remarks at, or were very careful as to what they said around him. And he was talking about, he would be talking about doing away with people, persons that were in his way, or were putting out information that he didn't feel that he wanted put out. He is very much a disinformer, and that is his job, to disinform about what is going on with the Illuminati and with the reptilians.
He actually warned me off from investigating the reptilians, interestingly. Where do the rituals take place that you've been involved in, involving the British royal family?
Glamis Castle, Stonehenge, Balmoral Castle. I have reason to believe there's a church, and I think it may be Westminster Abbey, and there is a Mothers of Darkness castle or chateau in Brussels, Belgium. They've been there too. And also in France, the Marquis de Libero Pindar has a castle in the Alsace-Lorraine region of France, and I believe it's in the Alsace region, that he uses, and there are certain rituals done at that castle down in the dungeon part of that castle, and there's an entrance down there to underground places in the earth, and there is a natural formation of rocks that kind of glow green, and they keep menstrual blood in that formation, and this green glowing from these rocks actually turns the blood a darker color, and it's called black blood, and it's used in certain rituals. But there are also, they keep small, there are smaller, less developed little reptilians that are kept down there. They're kind of pets. But one other thing that's also down there, there are eggs. It's like a nest of eggs kept down in that part where it's warm. It's very warm down there into this entrance, and these eggs are kept down there incubating, and they are the reptiles' eggs, and that's where they keep them.
What are your memories of conducting the rituals for the royal family? What happened? What were they doing?
One thing that sticks out in my mind is that there was, before, this was back in the late 70s. This was before Charles was married to Diana. He was involved with Kamala Parker Bowles, and she does not shapeshift, but she became pregnant by Charles, and she produced a baby, and this baby was presented at the ritual and killed, and that is the price, the firstborn between these two, and eventually these two will marry, and that is the price that is to be paid, the sacrifice of the firstborn between a union of these two people. And I've seen that there. Something else that sticks out in my mind is that it was around the late 80s that I saw a very kind of dark man he was Arabic. It seemed to be Arabic or Egyptian, and I heard the name Fayed being mentioned, and the Queen Mother was there, and I called her the Black Queen, and she and he were talking very seriously and at some length about a subject. They were mentioning Diana, and they were mentioning his son, Dodi, and at the time I didn't know who Dodi was. I knew who Diana was. I never saw her at any rituals.
Where did this conversation take place?
This took place at Balmoral castle. And I heard them talking about a marriage between these two, and I thought at the time, well, she's married to Charles. How can there be a marriage where she's married to Charles? I didn't understand why the Queen Mother and this person that I now know to be Dodi Fayed's, because I heard Fayed, Mohammed al-Fayed, talking, and I'd seen them together at Mohammed al-Fayed talking, and I'd seen them together at I saw them at Balmoral Castle. I overheard the conversation at Balmoral, but I'd seen them also at Mothers of Darkness Chateau in Brussels, and they were talking about a union between Diana and his son Dodi back in the late 80s, and I did not understand at that time, because I understood Diana to be married to Charles. I knew that she was married to Charles, and they had 2 children, and they were about to have another. And the Queen Mother, all I could pick up was that for some reason that there was a malevolence towards Diana, and Diana I had never seen at a ritual. I wondered what she knew about all of this.
What have you seen the royal family do, the Queen Mother, and the other people you've seen in the rituals? What have you seen them do?
I've seen all of them drink human blood and consume human flesh, and they have their own goblets in which they have blood, and these goblets are encrusted with jewels, and they also have their own daggers, and that the dagger goes into the goblet, and they stir the blood around with it, and it's also a what it is, it's a symbol of the phallus going into the vagina, and when they're doing this, and I've seen them do this, and some of them have even, like the Queen Mother I saw with, she had her own little, like almost, it was between a very elaborate ornate chair or a throne kind of thing brought in for her to sit. And because before these rituals actually start, there is a kind of people move around the room and talk, or recognize one another. It's a formal kind of a ritualistic setup, the way they talk and the way they introduce each other. It's like a court.
What are they wearing?
They're wearing robes. They're not wearing anything underneath the robes, and the robes are very ornate. They all have, the one thing in common they have is they have a red color like blood, and some of them have purple, and they have gold kinds of lines running through them. They have the Merovingian symbol of France, the fleur-de-lis, and there are jewels that are sewn in at certain points on these robes, And they wear these robes, but they don't wear anything underneath the robes, because what is going to happen, what the rituals are all about, they're going to shapeshift, and they can't have anything on under the robes. And there are orgy kind of things that go on at the rituals also. And
involving the royal family of Britain?
Yes, involving the royal family of Britain, and the sacrifice and the eating of, consuming the sacrifice, and they are involved in that.
You've seen them do that?
Yes, I have seen them do that.
People in Britain, listening to what you're saying, would obviously be staggered, I guess anywhere in the world, but what would stagger them mostly is, in Britain, the Queen Mother has an image of being the nation's grandmother. The nice old lady, and good old Queen Mum, what a lovely lady. What's your experience of the Queen Mother?
She is very cold in reality, and she is very cruel, and she is very different than she comes across to the public. She's cold-blooded. If she feels that you are someone beneath her, even in the Illuminati, that you're at her equal or your station is above her, she will not speak to you, she will not recognize you. She obviously, from what I see, enjoys consuming human flesh. It's sickening. The one person that she seems to be afraid of is Pindar.
People would also look at the Queen Mother's elderly, frail stature and find it very difficult to see her taking part in rituals and doing anything, if you like, active. Do they go into a different state in terms of age and strength and all these other attributes when they actually shapeshift?
Yes, the human body that they choose to occupy or take when it was young, it ages, but when they take the reptilian form, these reptilians live hundreds of years, and so they have to have taken more than one human body to live in. A lot of them are much, much older, and I'm including the Queen Mother in this, older than people think that she is. She's been in more than one body, human form. And when the time comes, if it is time for her to go on, it has been chosen that she still has, it's known that she still has life or years to go, again, she will be put into the body, the essence of her, and the reptilian form will go, or the essence of her will go into another body that is also has the ability to shapeshift into reptilian form.
One of the pure reptilian human bloodlines?
Yes.
What happens when, take the Queen Mother as an example, what happens when they shapeshift? I mean, what do you see?
You start to see changes happen, and they're happening so fast that it's almost, it's the closest thing that I've seen to it is what they're now doing with computer technology. It's just a literal transformation that happens very quickly, and they get taller and they get bigger, and they don't look at all as reptilians like they do as humans, and thus the wearing of the robes, because if they were in clothes, the clothes would be torn apart.
So let's take the Queen Mother on this subject as an example. We recognize her as a frail old lady. What does she look like when she shapeshifts at these rituals?
She has, she looks like, the nose portion gets very much longer and it grows into kind of a snout kind of thing. She has fangs and incisors as teeth, and there's a tongue. They all seem to have this kind of tongue when they're at this level. The tongue has a lot of long, hairy or pointed projections coming out of it. It's very long. And they have these, they don't have hands or feet, they have these claws. And they have scales and also scales that seem to kind of disappear into one another, but it's more pronounced on the back. There seem to be lumps or protrusions coming from the head. There seem to be some kind of growth appendages at where, you know, on the back, and they seem folded, and not all of them have that. And there is a tail, and they a lot of times will keep the tail curled, and and I've seen her when she's very displeased with something, as I've seen other members like this. This tail is whipped around, very agitated, and they do, and she hisses.
What color are they?
Which one in particular?
Take the Queen Mother as an example.
She's kind of a beige color on the underside, and by the time you're going up around to the back and the tail and the top of the head and on top of the nose, snout, whatever, it's coming to a very they're dark speckles or large speckles of dark browns, and the eyes usually they're large. They look like they're very round, and they look like they're coming out of their sockets, and very protruding, and usually the color ranges from a beige to a gold to a dark greenish gold, and then there's this dark slit up and down, a vertical slit, and and the eyes will look hooded, and when they look hooded, it's a very frightening thing, because it seems that when the eyes are hooded, they're about to do something.
What do you mean by hooded?
The lids come down, and it's almost, I guess it would be the same thing in a human as an expression of someone's got an idea.
And how tall are they when they shapeshift?
They're just about 7 feet tall. Some are a little shorter, or to a foot shorter. Some are a little bit taller than 7 feet.
So what would the Queen and Prince Charles look like in their reptilian form?
As to height?
As to general appearance?
Well, Charles resembles in both ways, in human form and in reptilian. He resembles Pindar. He's shorter, though, in reptilian form than Pindar, but the way that the reptilian, the nose shapes into the snout at that point, and the jaw becomes the underpart. it's very much like Pindar, and his mother doesn't look quite the same as he does.
But what does the Queen look like?
The Queen, she's darker, not quite so pale. She's darker. All over, she doesn't have the amount of I would call it freckling. It's more like a gradual, like the skin is gradually getting darker. It's more smooth. And she does have the lumps up on around her head and down the tail, the spine. Charles has the tails down around the spine, and funny enough, he has the protrusions from the skull in the reptilian form, where about or above, right above where it seems like his ears would have been.
What is it about the rituals that allow the shapeshifting to happen?
When the victims are starting to be sacrificed, it's the scent of the blood, and they start shape-shifting at that point in time, and they can hardly wait to get to the blood. It's like they're addicted to the blood, and then the consumption of human flesh that follows.
What have you seen the Queen or any of the royal family do in relation to that? Have you seen them sacrifice and consume human flesh?
There are certain times when they will actually do a sacrifice, or there will have been someone doing a sacrifice, and it's not happening fast enough for them. So they will step in and finish it themselves, because the sacrifice the ritual has to be gone through. It's sacrificially, I mean, ritualistically, it has to have been gone through, and they will step right in and just start tearing the throat out, and they're getting all this blood from the jugular vein at the same time. And that has happened when there are many there that are going to be sacrificed, and they just can't wait, and then tearing into the contents of the abdomen and stomach of a victim afterwards.
Who have you seen do that?
I've seen the Queen Mother do that, and Prince Philip and Charles. I've seen Guy de Rothschild do this. It seems that I've seen it more among royalty, or so-called royalty, do this than people that are not titled. They don't seem to. They seem like it feels like they don't dare, but they shapeshift nonetheless. But it's like the royals that step in and just start tearing away, because they can hardly wait.
How long can they hold the reptilian form in these occasions?
During the rituals, it's much easier for them to hold their reptilian form. They can stay in that form. What it is that they have a hard time holding their human form. And as long as they're around blood and the scent of blood, they can't hold human form.
Where do you think the story of Diana fits into all this? In terms of the ritual that you know about, the royal family background that you know about. What was all that about? What happened in Paris?
Diana was a ritual sacrifice because she's named after a goddess, Diana. She was chosen from before birth for the purpose of which she served. I understand and very well, and am very empathetic towards Diana, because in a way it parallels what happened to me, to have served your purpose, had 2 children, and then be tossed aside. And to her horror, though, she obviously never attending a ritual, she knew something was happening, and she knew what was going on and could not be trusted to be at a ritual anyways. I don't think that Diana would have attended a ritual. I don't think that they could get her to cooperate.
Es una bocanada de aire fresco saber que el Servicio de Inteligencia americano aparentemente no están con los Illuminati ni con los reptilianos. Fue una sorpresa para mí que no esperaba saber que Secharia Sitchin concurría con frecuencia a estos rituales y cambiaba a la forma de reptil. Sin embargo, tomar forma humana los ha debilitado mucho y son vulnerables a las enfermedades y a morir como cualquier humano. Los mismos reptilianos puros no aceptan como sus pares a las 13 familias de sangre real pura de la Tierra y los consideran esclavos avanzados que pueden ser útiles para sus objetivos finales, y es su reinado absoluto sobre nuestro planeta. El amanecer galáctico que comenzamos a vivir desde el 21 de diciembre del 2012 marca el comienzo de una nueva era que conlleva un gran cambio, pero la luz no está afirmada todavía en nuestro planeta. Porque si el Sol rota alrededor de nuestra galaxia durante 25.625 años, hasta llegar al mismo punto, y se divide en 5 ciclos de 5.125 años cada uno, con una latitud de 72 grados, hemos recorrido 0,014 grados, muy lejos de una décima de grado, y ni siquiera un año del nuevo amanecer galáctico, por lo que por mucho tiempo va a seguir reinando la oscuridad y la esclavitud. Pero lo más preocupante es cómo los reptilianos saben capitalizar las enseñanzas del falso Mesías. Las razas avanzadas han decidido que continuemos en tercera dimensión, al ver que esta humanidad está tan retrasada en su evolución después de 2000 años. Si nos hubieran jalado a la cuarta dimensión, se había producido un magnicidio entre los mismos habitantes de la Tierra. Una de las posibilidades que evaluaban las razas avanzadas era pasarnos a la quinta dimensión, para liberarnos de los reptilianos, pero el conocimiento que hubiéramos adquirido por la vibración tan elevada es una tecnología armamentística y no somos confiables. Esto ha sido todo por hoy. Los espero el próximo viernes a partir de las 18 horas y les recomiendo que no dejen de escuchar el programa de mi compañera Susana Macdef, que es imperdible. Hace un muy buen relato de las tablillas sumerias, que es apasionante. Para quienes no la conocen, pueden enviar su solicitud de amistad a mensajeros.delalba, mensajeros con M mayúscula, alba con A mayúscula. Hasta entonces, muy buenas tardes. Ofrecemos agua de mar para todas aquellas personas que no dispongan del tiempo o de los medios para acercarse a un muelle para recoger agua de mar. Nuestro programa Ciencia Marina, Medicina Herbaria y Terapias Alternativas queda a disposición de quien necesite el agua de mar. Comuníquese con nosotros a cienciayMedicinaMarina@live.com o en nuestro Facebook Medicina Marina Herbaria, Medicina Marina todo junto, con M mayúscula, Herbaria con H mayúscula, y mensajeros.delalba, mensajeros con M mayúscula y alba con A mayúscula. Recibirá también el asesoramiento que necesite.